Perfect. So we're in a session on mobility as a service. My name is Malte Ackermann. I have a background in the automotive industry, back when the automotive industry used to do and used to run also mobility services. And now I'm more in the academic world and focusing on all things mobility. Today, and I heard a lot of the term, or talked a lot about the term big picture, I think we want to move one level up. How do we integrate micromobility in the bigger picture? And that ultimately leads us to mobility as a service or mobility as a system. And there we have a great panel, and we have multiple perspectives on how to do and how to establish mobility as a service. How do we make it more successful? How do we make it more better, more adoptable for the people? And this is why I want to introduce my entire panel. I'd like to introduce Nicolas first, then Bibi, and then Arjan. Please come up on the stage and join me. Beautiful. So quickly, starting with you, Nicolas, can you just quickly introduce yourself, where you're currently working and focusing on?
Yeah, so my name is Nicolas Gorse, and I'm Chief Business Officer at Dott, so leading markets and central operations.
Perfect.
Okay, thank you. Welcome, my name is Bibi. I'm founder and CEO of Umob, the MaaS platform in Europe, working together with Dott as well, so
Yes.
happy to be here.
Beautiful.
And my name is Arjan. I'm working for AMAG. AMAG is automotive, so back in the game. And I'm heading the mobility as a service platform for AMAG in Switzerland.
So in the last 10, 15 years, mobility as a service really has matured. And there's been lots of talk from academia, but also lots of platforms have come and go. And my question to you, how do we make it truly successful? How do we drive up adoption? Maybe going to start with you, Nicolas.
Yeah, well, I think the first thing is that today it doesn't work, right? Like,
Okay.
so there is a lot of initiatives, there is a lot of discussion, but effectively it is not representing a large portion of trips. So in order to make it work, it needs to be mass adopted. And in order to be mass adopted, it needs to become affordable, seamless, and fully integrated into the infrastructure.
But it's actually straightforward. So we have one app, integrates everything, and we have numerous vendors offering that. But why is it not successful? Maybe Arjan, to you, because you're heading, and maybe you can explain a bit more your case, because you're doing a MaaS app, but you're doing a very specific focus on a take it. You have a different take on MaaS, I believe.
That's true, because we believe the reason why adoption fails is you have to start MaaS where the user starts the journey in the end. And our take at MaaS is also look at the mode of transportation. And we, of course, coming from automotive, is the user journey starts where the person lives. And the mode of transportation right now, the preferred one is the car still. 70% of the mobility in the cities is still cars. In a rural countryside, even more. So our MaaS setup is we have a base layer, starting the base layer, providing mobility ourselves. So we are an operator ourselves and adding extra services on top. So this is a different take. We don't aggregate mobility, we provide mobility and add other layers depending on the needs of the users.
But you also have a very different use case. You also provide mobility as a service, sort of as a one-stop solution for living quarters, right? Can you just elaborate a bit on that?
That's right, because our MaaS take is we start, as I said, where the people live or where the people work. So we have different approaches, either MaaS at where the people live, at houses. So in Switzerland, I think globally is the issue, there is scarcity of land. So people have to build more and more apartments, and whatever vanishes the first time, when you see people build more, is parking spaces. Imagine coming from the automotive industry, we're very sad if parking space disappears, because this is how we earn money. But in the end, we still have to provide mobility. And so we go where the people live and provide mobility solutions, being it a car, but also with our partners providing e-bikes, providing cargo bikes. So they are bringing mobility where the people live or where the people work. So we also look at corporate MaaS, which is a different take at MaaS, because also in the corporate model, mobility changes. So they need pool cars, they need e-bikes for carbon reduction and other mobility services.
Thank you very much. Bibi, what do you comment? What is your take on mobility as a service, and what do you do at Umob? Maybe explain that a bit more in detail.
Yeah, sure. I think we see things pretty different, and I do not agree that it doesn't work. Otherwise, we wouldn't be here. It doesn't work yet. So good news is we announced another 3.5 million in funding today. So there is proof and there is trust in MaaS. But I think maybe for those who do not know Umob, Umob is a European MaaS platform. We started 4 years ago, so pretty young in the industry, pretty new time. We took over MaaS Global, the Finnish originator of MaaS, which was pretty great. And I'm a strong believer in having the platform economy and building one booking.com for mobility. But I agree here that it is a MaaS product. And I think the way everybody looked at MaaS, and also in the Netherlands, trying to figure out different pilots, running 7 pilots at the same time, there's already the problem. If you have 7 MaaS platforms in the Netherlands alone, then it's never going to work on a huge scale, because if you then use it in Amsterdam, you also need a different one in Utrecht. And if you go cross-border to Brussels, to Antwerp, you have the same challenge. So I think for me personally is really a marketing challenge. I think we worked very hard on the integrations in the past 4 years. We have a huge coverage, especially in the MaaS industry. And I think we made that difference purely to look at it as a MaaS product and from a marketing perspective and not from a technical perspective, because all the operators in the industry know what they're doing. The APIs are there, which was not the case 10 years ago. Also looking into MaaS Global, it is there now. So then it's combining it and putting it into the market and making people aware of what MaaS is. Because if you go to a random person on the street here, nobody will know what it is. They're like, I don't know. So that's the challenge, to get it out there and to make people aware of that it is there, like Spotify did, like booking.com did. And if you make it more easy to have access to those services, then adoption and consumption will follow.
And how does it look in terms of the business model? Like, is it more corporate mobility? Is it what Wim Global initially envisioned? Is it what you do right now? Is it the integration with Dott? Is it the integration with micromobility providers? So how do we draw this bigger picture? How do we make business models work? Maybe you, Nicolas. How do we make it work?
So again, I said it's not working yet, but I strongly believe that this is the next, the next big thing. Actually, the next growth leverage is there. We proved as an industry that we could be sustainable on our own, and now we're going to be successful together as a team with all mode of transport. So how do we make it work? Well, by ensuring that we are really aggregating ourselves to really make intermodality truly work, meaning that you should be able, as we were discussing, and as probably Umob will provide, we should be able to take to cycle to the train station, take the train, and finish with an e-scooter in a seamless, affordable, and enjoyable way. And that's the way to make it work. How do we bring that technology and companies that truly focus on this, while operator focus on operating and city focus on allocating public space?
So we heard a lot about that micromobility companies are now beginning to become profitable. Some are close in the range of being profitable companies. So can we make MaaS app as a business profitable? Does it work? Because it's been around for 10 years and lots of companies have failed. So how does it work? Does it work? Yeah, you believe so?
Yeah.
So who do you make the money? Who's paying for it? That's also a very tough question at times. Is it the user? Is it maybe the city for the service you provide for? Is it employees? Is it living quarters? Who's really paying for mobility as a service?
Maybe I can take the question. I think at the end, as I said, it depends on who needs the journey, who wants that the person goes from A to B.
Yeah.
So in the end, as I said, my strong belief is you need a mobility service base layer. You're something who pays the bill in the end. So if you look at the larger MaaS conceptual platforms which are out there, either organized or orchestrated by the public transit, so governmental tax money is invested there. So in the end, do I have to earn money with this? In the end, no. Because it's not about profit, it's about making the journey itself easy as possible for everyone in the city, because it's the job of the government to provide the service. Or is it another base layer? If you look at the Ubers, the FreeNows, the AMAGs of the world, to say there's another service which is the core of our mobility service. And this is how we earn the money. And the other services are the cherries on top to make the product itself more enjoyable. So it means we can't ignore the other services. We must integrate the other services, but we also know that we might not earn a lot of money with integrating the services.
And you touched a very important point, like, who's actually in charge of mobility? Is this the public? Is it the private? Who owns and runs the platforms? So what's the sweet spot for like a public-private partnership in terms for you, for Dott as an operator, or for you as mobility platforms? What do you think? What's the sweet spot for a public-private partnership? Where does a private start come in, and where does the public end?
Well, I think it really depends on I mean, cities and countries, etc. But what is crystal clear is that there is a public interest of having individual car trip replaced by bundled journeys from public transport to mobility services. And there is also a public interest of ensuring that all the vehicles that are on street are consistently being used, because obviously there is very little space. And so there is a public interest and there is private operators. Afterwards, exactly the formula will depend on each cases.
But how do you actually navigate like the sort of the trade-off between accessibility and profitability? Because you as an operator, you want to pinpoint to the city center, have a very small operating area because it's usually profitable. But some cities are demanding you have to serve certain areas which are probably not in your best interest or your own interest. So how do you navigate that?
Well, honestly, now that we are operating in big metropolis, we are operating in very small cities, and we manage to be profitable there. I think that we put vehicle where there is usage and where it is useful, right? So so it needs to be accessible and profitable. You can't choose. And we've proven over and over again that there is actually, in most places that are in urban areas or peri-urban areas, it is profitable and sustainable to do it.
Okay, and coming back to the public-private partnership, what do you guys think? Who's supposed to run MaaS schemes, platforms?
Well, I think from our perspective, what we see is, and what you also see happening in the market, is that a lot of public, like municipalities, wanted to do it on their own. And what you saw happening also in the Netherlands is that every municipality wanted to build their own MaaS app. Yeah. I'm a strong disbeliever in that whole concept, because then you still have the struggles between cities and between countries. But I do think that the public has a huge role in adoption. And what we see that works pretty well, they have huge power of convincing people to use the services. They have a lot of tender projects and a lot of budget to make sure people are able to use the services. So we run a lot of different projects now also in the Netherlands. And a great example is in Rotterdam, where the European Union and the municipality of Rotterdam want everybody to use sustainable transport modes, but they work together with us to make sure that people can use those services and do not need to download like 10 different apps. So they had a budget of 200,000 euros, which we could provide to every citizen in Rotterdam to use the services and to get used to use shared mobility options. And I think that's a great wall, but they should not have their own MaaS apps. That's my opinion, and you also see that in
Because I also saw that we have lots of cities having different MaaS apps and options.
Exactly.
And all the city's officials, they all want MaaS and mobility options.
Yeah.
But usually they're pretty demanding and they don't realize how complex of a business that is, how capital intensive of a business that is. And if you would sort of form a wish list, what do you think would you demand from a city? What do we need from a city for you to be profitable or you to become into a city?
Well, it really helps. Like it really drives adoption, and I think if you are able to achieve that adoption and achieve that usage, then we can make it profitable. But however, you need different channels to get the people in and to do the acquisition, and that's where the city can really help, and they also can provide budget there. And where they also can help is like those partnerships in cities, also with all the new real estate where you do not have any parking spaces anymore, help us to get people then moving to shared mobility with newsletters or informing people, because the city has a really trustable role in informing people as well.
And how do we actually get the people? Once it's there, we saw a lot of MaaS apps, MaaS applications everywhere, but the adoption and the awareness, as you initially mentioned, is somewhat marginal, is somewhat well below what we all expected. So what do you think, how do we create awareness? Maybe Arjan.
I think that the problem with MaaS is an app itself does not move anyone from A to B. Its tag is a piece of code. You can't jump on a piece of code and go from A to B. There needs to be a vehicle, and someone has to operate the vehicle, and the vehicle has to be there where the journey starts. And it also has to be somewhere else where the journey ends to bring the vehicle somewhere else. Because otherwise, it's parked at the end of the city and it's parked there for days and days and days, and someone else has to drive then pick it up. So MaaS only works if you have very efficient operators who are willing to take a risk to go into a city, either the city is profitable for themselves, it makes sense to operate in a certain city, or they're subsidized, supported by the governments to go in parts of the city where you know this vehicle will be there for 24, 72 hours and no one will pick it up. It's lost money because the vehicle not used. And this is also relevant for MaaS to not only look at the tech level, but also look at the mobility services which are there, which combines, of course, micromobility, cars, buses, everything which moves people from A to B, because it always depends on the demand. If you only look at one type of demand, one type of people who want to go A to B, you exclude a certain part of the population. This is also the reason why MaaS might not succeed yet.
And I think it needs to be cheap and easy, right? If it is cheap and it is more affordable than looking at one service on its own, and if it is easy, as in you just take a ticket and everything goes smooth from the moment you start to the moment you end, it's going to be massively adopted.
Okay.
And that's the core challenge that we need to address.
But coming back to your case, Arjan, like you have MaaS options in living quarters. It's very specific for these individual living quarters. How do you create awareness on a really operational basis? Do you do like flyers? How do you get to the basically the people who live there into your MaaS application?
So right now we have discussions with residents who might move in 2 years from today onwards. So we are very forward-looking. Because the reason is, we figured out, the point you move into a new apartment, everyone has moved at least once in his lifetime. Whenever you move somewhere else, the first day you start navigating, can I park my car? Anyways, can I park my bike somewhere else? Where's my supermarket? Where's my post? Where's my tram stop? Where's my metro? I start navigating. And after a couple of days, maybe hours, you know where to go from A to B and how a mobility package is solved. And if you, after 1 month, you come in and say, I give you a new mobility solution, I said, okay, nice, but I know where my supermarket is, I know where tram is, I don't need you anymore. So we started pretty early. So as I said, like weeks, month advance before people move into the residential areas, and tell them, hey, there is shared mobility coming for you. You don't need to buy your own car. You don't need to buy a private cargo bike. You don't need this because it's there and it's provided by your landlord or by the AMAG.
Okay, and Bibi, in terms of Umob, like what do you do in terms of marketing? Because it's a razor slim margin business. It's a tough business, and customer acquisition costs in a digital world are super high compared to what other businesses can afford. How do you run marketing? How do you run customer acquisition costs?
Well, we see different channels to do so. I think the one you're mentioning is a very good one. You always have to be there at the exact point that people are changing their behavior. So that's also, for example, if people get their driver's license, that's also a moment when they will consider buying a car, yes or no, or what they can use. Of course, because we are fully platform-based, we do not have any assets. We have, for us, a bigger marketing budget. And I think, indeed, there is some form of online marketing. And if you play that game pretty well, then it's not that expensive to acquire the right people. That's also why we work together with the operators, because we have a very slim model in doing so, and we are getting better and better in that. And in the end, yes, maybe it is a tiny margin, but if we can prove that we can do the acquisition pretty well, then your margins will also grow. So I think that's also a collaboration. And also referring back to a point you mentioned is, I always believe that from an operator side, you cannot do and marketing and tech and have a very operational fleet. Like, for us, it's also in best interest if those vehicles just work, and then we can do the marketing as well. And then you have municipalities to help you with the acquisition. You have online channels. There's also a lot of information moments with schools, with partnerships. But in the future, I hope also with KLM, etc. I mean, people that travel, they need mobility. They need taxis. They need micromobility. They need all of these different things. And then you have one network that works together.
And a lot of criticism over the last years was always on mobility as a service, or MaaS as a system, is always about an urbanist, elitist vision. It's all just about a bunch better, well-educated, well-income type of customer groups. How do we actually get MaaS? And I already see that we get more and more people using those applications. And how do we approach semi-rural or even rural areas? Can we serve mobility as a service for those areas? Or will it be always just be sort of an urban question?
I think yes, but you have to change the mode. because it doesn't make sense to have larger e-scootering or bike sharing fleets in rural area because it doesn't fly, it doesn't work, it's not profitable at all. However, if you change the mode, if you look at on-demand mobility, public transit, so there are other different kinds of car sharing. So there's so many other modes which are more relevant in the rural areas than in the urban parts. So if you look at MaaS, you always have to look where to change the behavior of whom. And then use the applicable mode of transportation or put it there and subsidize it, or make it attractive for the people so they change their behavior, if this is the aim of the MaaS platform. Yes, it works.
So how, for you, Nicolas, how does it work for Dott? Like, what's the threshold from a population perspective or from a density perspective that Dott can come in and operate, even under a small scheme with them, such as an development or an real estate environment?
Well, I think it depends of how far it is from the core center, right? Like
okay.
If you have a rural area on its own, cannot be operated by an operator like us. However, places that are nearby a core center that are 15, 20, 25,000 inhabitants, that's actually sustainable as long as they connect to the center and there is a commuting system.
Okay.
Yeah.
When we look in terms of business model and into the future, there's a lot of talk about subscriptions in a variety of mobilities. How do you view subscription or the subscription economy? Will it take over mobility as well? What's your view on that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that it should not be any more mobility as a service, but more mobility as a subscription, right? And we should have, the possibility to get all the modes into one very affordable monthly ticket that would allow you to choose all the options for your use case. And this is what will unlock the next wave of growth for all of us. And finally, making it happen on intermodality. So absolutely, I think that that moment now that the operators have matured and demonstrated that they could sustain on their own, again, it's the time for us to get together and make those type of model happen to ensure that we capture the next wave of growth.
I agree. Yeah, I think that's also where MaaS is different than the single operator, right? You can combine everything, and you do see that people use on average the services a lot. So that's also something we see in the data. I worked on the other side as well, and Raymond, my co-founder, did as well. So we also know what the average were there. And I think you can really make sure people use the services more and more if you have the density. So we rely on the operators there where they are active, yes or no. But I'm a true believer in having subscriptions there, and that you can say like, hey, specific also to personalize it, because personalization is key. I live in Rotterdam. We have a lot of operators there, and that you can say like, hey, for 25 euros a month, you can unlimitedly use those e-bikes of Felix and Lime, etc. there. That's where you can make a difference, and then it's attractive to people.
Do you see any cities which sort of function right now as a role model in terms of subscription? Are there any really good cases out there? You see that's the future? That's how it looks like, even if it's a competitor or something?
And in the Netherlands, we do not see it yet. Okay. I think we have a lot of data also from MaaS Global, because they use the subscription model to enter the market. However, I think the market was not ready 10 years ago, because people first need to get used to the services, and now the services are really visible on the street. So I think it will work now. But we want to try it a lot, because I think that's also where people are asking for like, hey, I miss passes, or I miss like a total package. Can you make that work? But you first need the operators to go with you. But
are those subscriptions purely based on a B2C business or business to consumer, or is it probably more sort of a corporate B2B solution? What's your take on that? Is it something that you are working on, Arjan?
So in the B2B context, in the end, most journeys are for free for the customers. So of course, subscription means I, as a company, want to have this mode of transportation. I want to have my cars, my bikes, my e-scooter fleets. I want to have this and this and this and this for a fixed rate. So this is a kind of subscription model. I think it's very challenging subscriptions in a B2C context, especially to those who are selling subscriptions like a platform, because they have to buy the mobility services from a third party who are willing to say, I put a flat rate on my offer. So I'm willing to say for 20 euros a month, they can use my service for free flat. Yeah. It's very risky business. And there's a reason why subscription and this might not work. Packaging might work, bundles might work. There were first pilots also in Switzerland back in the days to have like public transit and micromobility is a bundle. But in the end, they used the MaaS app, which was operated by the SBB Public Transit, and mostly they use it for public transit tickets. So the bundles were kind of ignored. So it's there, it works, but adoption rate somehow it's on both sides. Either user doesn't want it, or the operator has hard time to offering the bundles in such a MaaS platform.
So it's a tough relationship between the operator and you as a platform in order to establish.
It's all about the money in the end.
It's all about the money in the end. I asked you that before, Nicolas, and I'm going to ask you that again because I think it's a quite insightful thought. We saw a lot of hyper growth in the micromobility scale, and there was so much abundance of venture capital, and these companies reached within months billions of dollars valuations, became unicorn, had never been seen before within months. And the question was always, okay, now you're operators. Why are you not going a step further? Why are you not becoming a mobility platform? Why are you not like you're fueled with venture capital? You could have done it easily, or should you do it?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we already do a lot of things, right? We have a user app, we have an operation app, we are a hardware company, we are an infrastructure, we lead people. Like, it's already a lot to actually operate such service. So that's why I don't think anyone is going to truly be super successful in the super app. And the core of the super app is to truly integrate the other mode. And for this, you need people that are actually laser focusing on making this happen with public transport, with the city, with all the modes. So this is why I think this is ultimately there will be specific players like you who will be successful in leading this. And we as operator, we need to ensure that we keep on focusing on reliability, affordability of our service, and the brand preference will remain, right? Like, even if you have a panel on Spotify, you're still gonna listen to your favorite music, right? And so we will still compete within the apps on our brand preference, but we will allow clients to and a new product segment of intermodality. When today we are only doing A to B, which we can only do so much, right?
But if you, as an operator, you want to integrate into platform A, platform B, platform C, or you just want to have one preferred partner, what's your preferred mode going into cities?
Well, I think per city, it's better to have one, right? Because then you truly have a compelling option, you know, that really manages to move the needle in terms of replacing individual car trip or really making sure that you are fluid in the mobility options, but they can be, you know, one per city. I mean, obviously they could be big players in Europe as well. But for us, I think in order to truly make it work, we need to double down on one single key operator in city that bundles all the mobility option and make truly mobility as a subscription happen and successful.
Okay, I really liked how Horace in the morning really touched in his keynote and sort of circled back on the iPhone moment and what it meant for the smartphone industry and all. We know what a smartphone is and how it's really been, really entangled into our social fabric in our daily life. And when we look at MaaS, and I really like to draw this analogy because the smartphone, iPhone came out 2007, mass adoption was around 2010, 2011, and now we hear and it's everywhere. So drawing on this analogy, where are we in terms of MaaS? Are we in 2007? Is it still the start? Is it 2011? Is this the MaaS adoption? Or are we even more mature? Where are we? If we draw this analogy, what do you think?
I think what we saw happening in the market is that, like what you're mentioning, referring back to the very start of MaaS, I don't think we're at the start anymore. I think we passed that phase. But then the expectations were enormous, way too big. I think if you look back, it was way too big and MaaS was going to solve all of our problems, where I think that was not the case, right? I think everybody knows that. So expectations went sky high and then everything dropped and everybody said MaaS is dead. I think that was also wrong because I do think that we learned a lot from those years where the expectations were sky high, but I still don't think that MaaS is a solution itself. It helps to make cities greener, to make cities better, and to drive adoption. But MaaS itself is not the only solution out there. So I think everybody has now downscaled their expectations, and we know what we can expect from MaaS and what the role of MaaS is, and how we need to adopt. And I think we're now going into a phase where we can really scale that. And I think also, from our perspective, we are, well, not the biggest, but one of the biggest MaaS operators now in 3 years of time with the integrations that we did. So there is trust, and they all see that we need to collaborate. And I think also the perspective from the operators changed, as he's mentioning. Like everybody wanted to win the game themselves, but that's also not possible. You need each other. And I think that's where we're currently at. And then I truly believe in the end that everybody will use it, like everybody uses an iPhone now, and that there will be one app that uses them all. And that you see that with thuisbezorgdjes, takeaway, Airbnb, etc. I truly believe in that economy. And I also truly believe we can make that work. But we need each other. Like Booking.com need the hotels, we need the operators.
So we went through this Gartner hype cycle. We no longer disillusioned. So we reached this platform of productivity. That's basically what you?
I disagree. I would say we'd rather I would say we're in a Nokia moment right now, rather.
Ooh, love it.
Yeah, because Nokia is nice because everyone had this first phone was a Nokia phone. So the first time we used to play with the phone, we know how to call people. We start, oh, it's cool, something interactive, something brand new. And a couple of months after was iPhone, something completely different all of a sudden. So I believe now while we're in the first phase, we learn, oh, super cool, I can order mobility via an app. It's super cool, I can interact with vehicle, I get data. But we don't know how mobility will be in 2 years, I would say. We are now in the phase to learn to it, but I'm not sure if the app will be the thing to interact with the vehicle. It can be in the vehicle, in a car interaction. It can be via voice. It can be who knows what. So I do not trust that an app will be the solution. It might be, but I wouldn't bet my money that the app is the MaaS solution in the future. MaaS can be completely different because MaaS itself, I think the concept was coined 1979. So even before any Nokia was on the market. So now the Nokia came, so now MaaS, we said MaaS must be an app, but disagree that MaaS is about an app. MaaS is about mobility as a service, is about getting mobility as a service. It doesn't say it's an app, right? So I believe there is something to come, and we don't know what will come.
So it might be different form factor. It's integrated in some glasses, or what is your vision on that?
Whatever. But I think MaaS, because people say MaaS is app, I completely disagree that MaaS is app. And MaaS is about a service component, not the app. So it might be, but it doesn't mean it must be an app in 5 years from now onwards.
So this initial analogy, MaaS will be the Spotify of mobility. Is that misleading? Is that not really the case? Will it be different, or is it different?
I think Spotify itself is also kind of weird, because if you use Spotify, put in a playlist, you set a playlist, you see there's my Taylor Swift. Okay, but who owns the music Taylor Swift? Is this Virgin Records? Is this BMG? You don't know who operates, who owns the rights, and that sells the right to Spotify that you can consume Spotify. So the operator, the owner of the mobility, the owner of the IP itself, completely in the background, right? So if you use mobility service like Spotify means I'm using service provider A via an app or not via an app. And I don't care if it's a green, blue, yellow, whatever mode of transportation behind it. So this would be Spotify, if you take the analogy. I'd rather take the booking logic you mentioned to say, I have mobility. I still see my brand I'm consuming because I have trust in certain mobility brands. I'd rather trust my blue, yellow, green mobility provider. So I wouldn't agree on Spotify. I'd rather agree on booking.
But in the street, you would still see that there is, effectively you're taking a vehicle, right? So if it's not like this is a green or red, like if you go with a Dott, you see that it is blue and it's branded Dott, and
exactly.
Yeah.
So looking at the road ahead, and sort of as a closing question, what do you think is the most challenging thing up ahead in terms of mobility? Is it the business model? Is it the public-private partnership? Is it maybe technical barriers? Is it any incentives? Like what are the roadblocks ahead? How does the future look for MaaS? Is it just all bright and sunny skies, or is it something else?
I think they're all connected with each other, right? I mean, if we lower the technical barriers, then we have more efficiency and we're more scalable, and then everything just works better. And if the operators have a very operational and perfect fleet, then the usage will be better, because now still people experience a flat tire or a broken vehicle, and that does not help with the adoption. So I think we are getting better and better in technical integrations. That's also we saw with the integration with Dott. We did that on a very fast pace. So we're lowering all the barriers. And then in the end, it's, for me, all bright and sunny, because I think the good thing is also that municipalities and the government really see the urgency of changing behavior of the people, getting rid of all the private vehicles, getting rid of parking spaces. And that's also helping us in the end. So where I also worked on the automotive side, and they are not that happy with removing parking spots. But we are very happy with it. And for us, it's the best that can happen. I live in Rotterdam, and it's fully roadworks now, and everybody's frustrated. So it's very good timing, and also to be out there and to work with the municipality to show other options. So I see a bright future.
Perfect.
Yeah, same here. I think I see a bright future. I think the core thing is to figure out the commercial aspect so that everybody wins. But I think technologically, from the infrastructure, the maturity, there is a lot of things that are coming together. So it's probably not 10 years away anymore. It's probably months away. And no, I'm very, very excited for that next phase.
It's about, as you said, about the technology. It's about interoperability between the brands, the services. So there will be a layer of harmonization coming now, brings everything together. I also believe there's a bright future in the concept of MaaS, however it will look like.
Perfect. Nicolas, Bibi, Arjan, thank you so much for your insights and enjoy your day. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.